All right, AP Seminar. Up until now, you guys were working on your IRRs, your individual research reports, and they were focused on just one lens, and they were either informational or argumentative, either one. Now, you're going to take those 4 different papers that you guys have written, and you're going to bring them all together into one multimedia presentation that's going to go up on the screen for all of us to see. So that is your job for the next week or so, to combine those 4 papers to create this new presentation. Now, in order to do that, let's move ourselves into the boardroom here. There we go. Now, you're going to be presenting, so you'll be in a place kind of like this, and you're going to be facing an audience, and you're going to have to tell them about your group's problem. And you're going to try to introduce multiple effective solutions, eventually coming up with a solution that your group believes is the best. So let me say that again in case you didn't write it down. Your presentation is going to help us to understand the complexity of the problem and then offer multiple viable solutions, eventually landing on the one solution that's the best. Got that down? Okay. So let's talk about the other elements of this presentation. One of the other important parts of this presentation is that you have effective visuals. The things that are on the screen behind you when you're presenting need to be effective. And what I mean by that is they have to move the argument forward. They shouldn't just be mirroring what it is you're saying. It should be signposting your argument and giving us information that we couldn't get just from the words that you're telling us. And we'll look at what effective multimedia presentations might look like. You also want to make sure that the visuals are attractive, appealing, uncluttered, have a theme, both in terms of the color and the font that is consistent throughout. And we'll talk about that as well. Secondly, your presentation skills are going to be measured. So you're going to have to make sure that you are able to speak comfortably and confidently on your topic, articulate and enunciate clearly, have effective gestures, comfortable posture. You're also going to want to make sure that every member of your presentation participates somewhat equally. You can't have any one person dominating the presentation. You should all have an equal share in presenting this information. And then finally, every individual that's up in front speaking needs to be aware of what is happening in everyone else's presentation. So you need to know what's in this paper and this paper and this paper. You can't just know your own subject. So that's some of the basics of what you're going to be asked to do for the team multimedia presentation. Now, if you remember, your papers are all going to focus on different lenses: historical, environmental, artistic, economic, ethical. And so you're going to be bringing all of those different perspectives from all of those different lenses into this argument as we try to arrive at a solution that satisfies everyone. Now, hopefully you're starting to see some of the complexity here. There will be scientific solutions that might be unethical. There may be economic solutions that will damage the environment. And that's what you're going to have to discuss. How do those different solutions help one area, hurt others? And then try to arrive at a solution that does the best job of accommodating as many different lenses as possible. Now, and you should write this down as well. So your solution has to try to address many lenses. But there is no such thing in these presentations as the perfect solution. So whatever solution your group eventually recommends, you will also have to discuss the limitations of that solution. I hope that makes some sense. Now, So essentially, you're going to have this one problem that you're going to be helping us to understand by giving us some brief background about that problem. And then you're going to introduce multiple solutions. Every solution, even the one that you think is the best solution, you need to discuss the limitations of that solution. How does it satisfy or how does it not satisfy the needs for different lenses? Now, here's one way to sort of think about this. Let me throw a graphic up here. What you see here is the problem in the center, and then the different lenses, the different solutions surrounding that problem. Okay? For one solution, maybe it satisfies this lens and this lens, but it doesn't satisfy this one. Or maybe it satisfies two of these lenses, but so for each lens, there are perspectives that your lens has to address. And that solution that you are proposing may address two of those lenses, but probably not all three, or not all three completely. And so you need to be discussing how the different solutions satisfy different aspects of the problem, but that none of the solutions satisfy everything. But yet you're going to pick one that you believe is the best. All right, so that graphic helps us to better understand the way we're going to deal with the different solutions related to different lenses to solve one problem. If you have questions about that, make sure you ask. But in the past, the informational part of this presentation was not the part of the presentation that students had issues with. It was the presentation. It was either the media that they used or their presentation style or both. You need to make sure that you are comfortable as a presenter. What that means is you're going to talk to me, not at me. You're going to make good eye contact. You're going to look at me for recognition. Did what I just say make some sense? Is what your body language should imply. You want to pause at times for emphasis. You want to sound like you actually have both a content knowledge but an emotional knowledge of what you're saying. You understand when something that you're saying is serious, or when it's controversial, or when it's puzzling, or when it's adversarial. And your body language and your tone, to a certain degree, reinforce the content of the message. You want to make sure that you are speaking slowly enough so that your audience can hear you comfortably, but not so slowly as to sound like you're unsure or that you lose us because we have time to drift elsewhere. You want to make sure you're not tied to notes. It's okay to have something that you can use to keep track of where you are. Maybe it's just a glance back at the presentation to see what the next bullet point is, and then to speak to us off of that. But reading the slide and turning your back to the audience, or looking at your note card and reading off, are both very ineffective ways to try to make an audience feel like you're talking to them. And that's the goal, to make the audience feel like you're talking to them. Now, you're not only speaking to the audience, but you're interacting with your other group members. Let me bring a couple other group members up here. Let's get two other group members up here. Come on up. Let me move over a little. So I have a group member here and a group member here. When I am speaking to them, I need to make sure that I am engaging them in the same conversation that I'm engaging you in. So maybe that means I start a sentence and I finish it, and I end up completing whatever thought you had begun, or adding a different spin to it or a different perspective. It kind of sounds like we're sharing one brain then, or something like that, you know, man, it's cool. And then I come up with the next topic or the next transition, and I hand it off to the person next to me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about like how you don't divide this up by lens, right? Like you don't want one lens to talk about like all the history and then be done. And then economic to talk about the economic and be done. No, 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 no. You're solving a problem that all the lenses have to agree on. So you're going by like problems, solutions, not lens, lens, lens. It's going to sound terrible. That means you're going to have to know everybody else's lens though too, right? Like you can't just do your own lens. And
Yeah, like I got to know the economic, and
Yeah.
I got to know the scientific, and I can't put them all together for a solution. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And hopefully it sounds like one presentation that way, one unified.
That guy
thing.
gets it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are all really good tips, things that you should keep. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, you're
Yeah.
welcome. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime. Take
See
care,
ya.
man.
Yep. Take care. See you.
So those are all really good tips to keep in mind as you are trying to work with the others on stage as well as interacting with your audience. All of that is important. So your first job as a group is to know each other's papers. So what you're going to do, like right now, is you're going to make sure that you have access to everybody else's paper in your group. You're going to read those papers and take some notes. And I'll have a form for you to kind of fill out as you're taking notes on these papers. You want to understand what their perspectives are and what their issues are and how that's going to contribute to your overall solution. Once you have that down, we're going to talk about the next step. But for right now, read and understand everybody else's paper. Make sure that you understand the perspectives and the lenses, the perspectives and the issues that are relevant to their particular lens, and then start thinking about how that connects to your lens and your perspectives and your issues. All right, so reading other people's papers, understanding fully what is in them, and then the next lesson will help you figure out where to go from here.